Hey guys, today I'll show you a science fiction thriller TV series named Cyber Village Season 1. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. The drama begins in the year 2085 when human technology has taken a quantum leap and a portion of humanity has managed to colonize other planets. On the Stanford Taurus colony, two young geniuses, Nikolai and Barago, are creating a consciousness-swapping device. If successful, it would allow them to transfer a human's consciousness into a dog's body, a feat they believe will make them incredibly rich. But the experiment fails, forcing them to continue their ordinary lives. Nikolai is eager to break free from their current situation, while Barago spots a business opportunity. He envisions creating ideal mini-robots. He believes that if every household owned one of their creations, they would not only become wealthy but also astound the world. If that didn't work, their backup plan was to start a chicken farm on Mars. Many years later, Nikolai is on Mars, digging into the land to start his farm. He now makes a living raising and selling animals like chickens and cows. He is interviewed for his advanced technology, including the intelligent robots he built, who help him with daily chores. With his feisty wife, his older daughter, and his younger daughter, Nikolai has built a life here. Using just a few birch trees, he can control the local weather across his 15-acre plot. Activating a switch, he can summon dark clouds and even make it snow. After a minor operational error, he adjusts the system, and a torrential downpour instantly follows. His current ambition is to expand the farm and hire new employees from across the universe. But he wonders who would ever want to come to such a godforsaken place. Job applicants complain that the roads are terrible, but to Nikolai, that's nonsense. He can navigate them smoothly in his high-speed hover car. He often visits an industrial waste dump where he finds value in broken items others have discarded. It's here that he discovers a malfunctioning cleaning robot, which he takes home to repair. Nikolai's family lives a happy and fulfilling life on Mars, hoping for visitors from Earth or elsewhere on the planet. Meanwhile, high above a distant Earth, a private advanced space fleet known as Barago 1 is in orbit. Its owner is none other than Nikolai's old friend Barago, now the CEO of Izhevsk Dynamics. He enjoys a life of luxury with his family and is so wealthy that he has even had his own face carved into the surface of the moon. Annoyed by the craters on his lunar likeness, he orders his subordinates to fill them in. He is served day and night by robots who tend to his every need. After a meal, a button pops off his shirt due to his beer belly, and the robot responsible is in deep trouble. He commands his underlings to throw the robot into the trash, and two security bots immediately carry it away. How did Barago reach the pinnacle of success? He had realized his dream of putting an intelligent robot into every home. However, his unilateral decisions have caused dissatisfaction among the shareholders. They believe carving his face into the moon has severely damaged the company's public image, causing his own persona to crumble. The board of directors is uniting to replace him. Seeing his position as CEO threatened, he insists that it's his company and that he created everything. But the board holds the controlling stake, forcing him to relent. He has his deputy manager outline his plan to save the company. Their scientists have discovered a new mineral deposit on Mars, enough to last 100 years. By building a factory there, they could produce new robots at a much lower cost. Little does the board know that the site is the home of his old friend, Nikolai. The board gives Barago 1 month to succeed, or he will be replaced. Barago faces a problem. A strange man is living on the mineral deposit site on Mars and refuses to be bought out, no matter the price. When Barago pulls up the surveillance feed, he is shocked to see that the man is his old friend, Nikolai. At that moment, Nikolai has just finished repairing the broken robot, which can now perform simple chores. Suddenly, the ground begins to shake as several spaceships appear, hovering over Nikolai's farm. Barago has come to seize the land. Nikolai rushes outside to see a massive spaceship and smaller mining vessels in the sky. It is a tense moment, raising the question of whether these former friends will now turn on each other and whether Nikolai can protect his home. As the ships begin searching for a landing spot, Nikolai senses hostility. He tells his daughter to find her mother while he goes to investigate alone. After a ship lands, Barago emerges. To avoid getting his shoes dirty, he has his assistant put on shoe covers for him, as if to say the place is filthy. He greets Nikolai with false warmth, which Nikolai meets with an eye roll. From the start, Barago mocks Nikolai's life, calling it dirty and messy, trying to make him feel ashamed. Nikolai realizes his old friend isn't just here to show off his success and demands to know his true purpose. It is revealed that in the past, Barago had stolen Nikolai's ideas and managed to push him out of their company, taking all the credit for himself. Barago claims it was a board decision and suggests they let bygones be bygones. He then lays out his offer. If Nikolai allows him to build a factory, he will receive a 10-room mansion and enough money to live comfortably for the rest of his life. Nikolai furiously rejects his offer, telling him they stopped being friends the moment he betrayed him. Seeing that persuasion won't work, Barago resorts to force. He cites a decree from the year 2100 which states that Mars became the private property of Izhevsk Dynamics after the dissolution of the Interstellar Alliance. Barago orders Nikolai to leave the planet, telling him he has no choice. He then commands his crew to start leveling the area. Nikolai can only watch in despair as the home he built is destroyed, while Barago smirks triumphantly. His family is forcibly taken aboard a spaceship. Nikolai then notices that one member of his household is still on the ground, the newly repaired robot, blissfully cleaning away. Using one of his inventions, Nikolai incapacitates the guards. He has to rescue his robot. Meanwhile, Barago ruthlessly fires his deputy manager Scott for a minor mistake and then pettily demands the robot return the expensive jacket it is holding. Just then, an engineering vessel collides with the weather control pole, triggering a massive electrical storm. Nikolai arrives on the scene to find Barago about to harm the robot and quickly intervenes. During the struggle, Barago stumbles and falls onto the consciousness-swapping device. In a stroke of bizarre luck, a bolt of lightning strikes him. The high-voltage shock paralyzes him as he clutches the robot's rain-soaked jacket, which acts as a conductor. The energy surge activates the device, and the swap is complete. The robot's consciousness enters Barago's body, while Barago's consciousness is transferred into the robot. The newly robotic Barago curses, saying Nikolai's farm is finished. Nikolai is ecstatic and tells Barago to take a good look at his new body, announcing that he'll now live happily ever after as a robot. Barago is horrified and cannot accept his new reality. When Nikolai asks him to describe what he feels, Barago realizes he has lost his sense of touch and begs Nikolai to switch him back, but Nikolai has no intention of doing so. Just then, the recently fired Scott arrives. He hears the robot claiming to be Barago, but dismisses it as nonsense from a machine. He proceeds to rescue the man he believes to be his boss, Barago's body now occupied by the robot's simple mind. Barago's career appears to be over. He pleads with Nikolai for help, realizing his body is being taken onto the same spaceship as Nikolai's family. Nikolai tries to reach them, but it's too late. The ships take off, leaving the planet behind. As he watches them disappear, the devastating reality sets in. Not only has he lost his home, but his family has been taken away. After the chaos subsides, only desolation remains, though parts of the house are still standing. Nikolai furiously reprimands Barago, blaming him for being separated from his family. He says that even as a robot, Barago is unforgivable. After a heated argument, they part ways, with Barago naively believing his subordinates will come back for him. Nikolai decides to use his hover car to find his family. But after being exposed to the rain, Barago begins to rust. Stuck and unable to move in the desert, he realizes no one is coming for him. Just then, Nikolai happens to fly by. Barago desperately calls for help. Nikolai returns to test his sincerity, but Barago remains stubborn, admitting he may have acted improperly, but insisting Nikolai was also at fault. Seeing this, Nikolai prepares to leave again. Finally, Barago relents. He agrees to give Nikolai his village back if he'll just get him out of there. The two form a reluctant alliance. After Nikolai rescues Barago, they receive bad news. A dangerous sandstorm is approaching. Back on Earth, Izhevsk Dynamics has produced over 100 million robots. Despite the company's precarious situation, they are still increasing production under their slogan, "A robot in every home." Robots are now a common sight on the streets, but their proliferation has led to millions of people losing their jobs. The fired Scott returns home to his 3 children, who are on the verge of going hungry. His wife urges him to go back and beg his boss for his job back. Scott feels it would be humiliating, but his wife argues it's not about humiliation, but about their family's happiness and future success. Little does he know what awaits him. Back on Mars, Nikolai and Barago are caught in the sandstorm, their screams echoing across the desert. A news report breaks. The last residents of Mars were evacuating when a severe sandstorm hit those who were leaving. Reporters are trying to locate the missing individuals. Nikolai crawls out of the vehicle. They have both miraculously survived. The problem is, their hovercar is now buried in the sand. If they don't dig it out, they'll miss the last train off the planet. There won't be another because Barago himself had canceled the service to prevent reporters from discovering his plans to build a factory on Mars. The two are forced to work together to dig out the vehicle. After a great deal of effort, they finally free the hovercar and leave the desert behind. Meanwhile, a nervous Scott goes to beg for his job back. He's startled when the new CEO, Barago's body with the robot's mind, suddenly appears. As Scott pleads for his job, he notices his boss is behaving strangely, even eating a bar of soap. His demeanor is completely different. A quick scan reveals that his brain has the capacity of a 1-year-old, and his personal memories have been completely erased. After a long journey, Nikolai finally reaches the entrance to the train station. An elevator is required to reach the platform high above. After entering a command, the elevator descends to pick them up, and soon they arrive at the elevated station. Nikolai rushes to buy tickets to Earth for the last train, but they are completely sold out. Without tickets, they wonder how they will get on board. Back on Earth, Scott's wife suggests a plan. If he hides Barago, the board of directors might appoint him as the interim CEO. He initially refuses, saying it goes against his principles, but they begin to argue. In a fit of anger, Scott pauses his wife, revealing that she is just an intelligent AI hologram. Not only that, but his 3 adorable children are holograms as well. After calming down, he unpauses his wife, who is upset about being paused, saying it makes her feel less than human. At the station, Nikolai begs the ticket collector to let them on the train, offering to stand the whole way. Meanwhile, Barago manages to acquire a ticket, but once Nikolai is on board, he discovers that an old woman's ticket is missing and realizes Barago stole it. Furious, Nikolai drags Barago off the train. Barago reluctantly helps an old woman onto the train, but it's the wrong one. In the ensuing chaos, Nikolai desperately pulls the correct old lady along to help her catch the train just in time. Barago carries the other woman off the train, while the first old lady activates her mobility scooter, which unexpectedly takes flight, allowing her to board the train at the last second. As the train departs from Mars, Nikolai comes up with a plan to get to Earth via the mail service. They are packed into a crate and successfully loaded onto a mail transport ship bound for Earth. Unbeknownst to them, his family has returned to Mars. Nikolai's younger daughter managed to hack a spaceship's escape pod and brought her family back, though they landed far from home. Eventually, they find their family's hovercar. When Nikolai and Barago emerge from their crate, they find themselves surrounded by people wearing respirators. Looking up, they realize they are not on Earth, but on Pluto. This means they'll have to take a tour of the solar system to get home. The place is a converted industrial zone, with massive factories covering half the planet. The atmosphere is grim, filled with toxic gases, and the polluted water contrasts sharply with the cityscape. Warning signs for toxic gas are everywhere. Nikolai uses a drone to write a letter to his family, hoping his intelligent device can find them. As the drone leaves Pluto, the full extent of the planet's devastation is revealed. One side has been completely stripped bare. Back on Earth, Scott receives bad news. The company's stock value now depends on the CEO's speech that evening. If Barago appears in his current state, the company is doomed. Scott considers having his wife impersonate the CEO for the speech, but she explains that his likeness is encrypted and she cannot transform into him. To save the company's image, Scott decides to give the speech himself, but needs Barago's signature on the authorization documents. He secretly brings Barago to his office, trying to avoid drawing attention. However, the CEO's bizarre behavior confuses the employees, who all witness his strange antics. After a difficult struggle, Scott finally secures the signature and has his secretary deliver the document to the shareholders. He can now deliver the speech in the CEO's place. Nikolai and Barago enter a building searching for a communication device, only to find it filled with grim-faced, hostile miners. They are vehemently anti-robot and demand that Barago leave. They explain that Barago replaced them with machines, causing them to lose their jobs, and they despise him for it. Hearing himself insulted, Barago retorts that robots don't go on strike and threatens that with a single word, he could have them all exiled from Pluto. This enrages the miners, who are about to dismantle and destroy Barago. Just then, the mine foreman appears and saves them. Nikolai asks the foreman for help, hoping to borrow a phone. The foreman agrees, but warns them they are number 2,000 in the queue. Meanwhile, the baby-brained Barago on Earth is playing house and accidentally summons his sexy secretary. When she turns, she is shocked to see his smelly sausage exposed. Soon after, Scott delivers the speech as the acting CEO, announcing that Mars will soon become a new industrial autonomous zone. Everything is going smoothly until the real baby-brained Barago wanders onto the stage. The crowd erupts. Any hope of recovery is shattered, and his public image is destroyed for good. The event is broadcast live, and even the real Barago on Pluto witnesses the fiasco, along with the entire universe. Nikolai bursts out laughing, remarking that he finally got what he deserved. The foreman realizes the little robot is the real Barago and is about to tell everyone. In a panic, Barago uses a shrink ray on him, turning him into the size of an ant. Just then, the foreman's wife comes home, sees her tiny husband, and furiously vows revenge. The board of directors questions Scott about what happened, but he doesn't know the full story, only that Barago's intelligence has regressed to that of a 1-year-old. The board sees this as an opportunity. With Barago incapacitated, Scott can serve as the CEO and complete the Mars factory project. For the shareholders, Scott is much easier to control. Scott is stunned by his sudden promotion. The foreman's wife summons the other miners. Nikolai and Barago manage to block the door, but the crowd breaks through. They find no sign of the pair, only the tiny foreman on a plate, smaller than a donut. He quickly tells his friends that the fugitives are headed for the aircraft. It turns out Nikolai and Barago have also shrunk themselves to escape in a mini-plane. They fly around the house, evading the miners' attacks. With Barago's erratic piloting, the miners can't catch them. After a desperate struggle, they manage to escape. Back on Mars, Nikolai's family gets into their hover car and returns home. They confront the construction crew, warning them to stop their work because a terrifying creature lives there. Suddenly, a giant animal emerges from the ground. The creature, both cute and fearsome, was raised by Nikolai's younger daughter and obeys only her commands. At her word, it becomes as gentle as a lamb. The construction crew realizes they won't be able to excavate the area. The family then finds Nikolai's drone and his letter, learning that he and Barago are on their way to Earth and that Barago has agreed to cancel the demolition. Nikolai reassures his family not to worry. Meanwhile, Scott learns from his employees that Nikolai's family has returned to Mars and that a monster is preventing the demolition. Unsure whether to continue, he tells his staff to handle it as they see fit. After escaping in the helicopter, Nikolai and Barago return to their normal size. They find a communication device in a factory and see the miners who were chasing them on TV. The news reports that the company has resolved their back pay issues. Due to their unemployment, all the miners have been shrunk. One meal can now last them a month, so they no longer have to worry about money. Back on Earth, the secretary receives a call from Barago. His tone of voice is instantly recognizable, and she informs Scott that the real Barago is coming back. Fearing he'll be fired, Scott panics. His wife suggests a wicked idea. If they hide Barago's body, a lone robot won't be able to cause much trouble. Scott is torn. On Pluto, Barago receives a letter from Nikolai's wife and learns that his family is not on Earth, but back on Mars. When Nikolai returns from a shop, Barago quickly throws the letter in the trash. He hides the truth, knowing that if Nikolai finds out, he won't take him to Earth. They arrive at the train station, but only Nikolai is allowed in the passenger car. Robots must travel in the cargo car. Infuriated, Barago threatens to have the train attendant fired. A male attendant nearby kicks his smelly butt away. The world's richest man has never been treated this way. The male attendant is trying to ask the female attendant on a date. Nikolai runs back and, using the robot's expressive eyes, persuades the attendant to make an exception. The woman, eager to secure her date, relents but informs them that the robot must work as a service attendant for the human passengers. She instructs the robot to load only one piece of coal at a time. Soon, the train begins its journey through space. Meanwhile, construction of the factory on Mars is nearing completion, with only Nikolai's plot of land remaining untouched. Barago grudgingly serves the passengers, cleaning up their messes. He is furious, but this is only the beginning. He has to clean every car on the long train, with people lining up for his service. One passenger complains that the car is too cold, blaming the robot. In a fit of rage, Barago dumps all the coal into the furnace, unknowingly setting the stage for a disaster. He finds the female attendant to tell her he quits, only to find her crying over a failed romance. Barago comforts her, and she is charmed by his smile, telling him he's beautiful. She says he's a good person, but it's a pity he's a robot. Barago reveals his true identity, claiming to be the richest man on Earth, with property on every planet and a 40% stake in the company, which means he's the boss. He declares that he is Barago and vows to make the male attendant scrub the station floor with his messy beard. However, the attendant doesn't believe his smelly bullshit. Barago wants Nikolai to vouch for him, but finds Nikolai playing cards with a stranger, using Barago as a bet. If he loses, the robot belongs to the stranger. He never even asked for Barago's consent. Just then, disaster strikes. The furnace explodes, sending a piece of debris flying out and striking the train's photon rail. The train shakes violently as alarms blare. The train and all its passengers are now in grave danger. With the debris stuck on the rail, the train is at risk of derailing. If they can't find a solution quickly, everyone will perish in space. The cowardly male attendant claims he doesn't have the authority and passes the life-threatening rescue mission to his female colleague. Hearing this, Barago quietly slips away. Just as the female attendant is about to put on a spacesuit to undertake the dangerous task, she looks out the window and is shocked to see the robot already outside. His car is still a long way from the damaged section of the rail. He has taken this risk not because he caused the accident, but for her, even if it costs him his life. The attendant is stunned that the small robot has taken her place. Without any protective gear, he begins the arduous task. The train enters a small asteroid field, and if he's hit by even one piece of rock, he might never make it home. He desperately dodges the debris but is struck by a small piece, which terrifies him. The robot is knocked off the train and sent flying into space. Fortunately, he lands back on the train and successfully makes it past the dangerous asteroid field. He runs toward the damaged photon rail. When he reaches the spot, he sees electrical currents arcing between the rail and the stuck debris. He hesitates, but knows the train is about to derail. He detaches a camera to locate the problem, then grabs a crowbar and tries to pry the debris loose. With the first attempt, the entire train shakes violently. On the second try, he successfully removes the debris, but the force sends him flying off into space. Barago floats away, his body freezing in the cold, unable to move. He drifts deeper into the vastness of space, looking on at the beautiful but desolate view with a sense of loneliness and despair. Then, a figure appears. The female attendant has come to rescue him. At the Izhevsk Dynamics headquarters on Earth, Scott and his secretary Vera finally act on their feelings for each other. Scott has a new plan. He decides not to hide Barago's body, even though he might lose everything if the real Barago returns. After a long journey, the train arrives at a transfer station on the planet Saturn. The robot has become a hero for saving the passengers' lives. People applaud him and the female attendant gives him a deep-to-throat kiss, calling him her hero. Just then, the stranger from the card game appears to claim his prize, the robot. Although Nikolai points out that the stranger cheated, he is unable to stop him from taking Barago away. When the female attendant comes out, the robot is gone. Nikolai goes searching for Barago and is nearly hit by a hover car. He looks around, overwhelmed. Finding someone on this planet is like finding a needle in a haystack. Luckily, the stranger hasn't gone far. Nikolai leaves the robot's body behind, telling it to wait while he retrieves its head. He begins chasing the stranger through endless labyrinthine city blocks, but eventually loses him. The city blocks are constantly shifting. They are on a colony built not on Saturn itself, but within its majestic rings, a home colonists carved out for themselves. Meanwhile, construction on the Mars factory continues, with a clear division between the plant and Nikolai's home. His family waits for his return. In the bustling city on Saturn's rings, it turns out the stranger is a black market dealer who acquires his goods through illicit means. He puts Barago's head up for sale, and a young boy takes an interest. To avoid complications, the dealer sells the head to the boy. Barago's fate takes another twisted turn. The boy attaches his head to a new body, that of a robot dog. Barago thinks he can escape, but the boy controls him with an advanced leash and takes him to a robot fighting arena. In the arena, a terrifying combat robot known as the Executioner reigns supreme. With its sharp teeth, it launches a fierce attack on Barago. After a brutal first round, Barago is defeated. He tries to surrender to avoid being torn to shreds, but the Executioner doesn't stop. Seeing the danger, the boy steps in and saves him, leaving the Executioner stuck in a wall. The boy and Barago flee, escaping the pursuing thugs. Nikolai tries to find Barago by reporting the dealer to the police for robbery, but without evidence, his claim is dismissed as slander. The officer can't arrest the dealer without cause, and Nikolai's frustrated insults about the officer's incompetence get him thrown in jail. He and Barago are now far apart, one in daylight, the other in darkness. Barago is still under the boy's control and fails in an attempt to escape while the boy is asleep. In his cell, Nikolai misses his family. After several hours, he is released. The officer sarcastically invites him to visit again and asks for a 5-star review. Nikolai, dragging the robot's body, goes around asking passers-by for help. He then comes up with an idea. He goes to a public broadcasting station and uses his own hologram to search for the robot head. Barago hears Nikolai's voice and comes out to see. In a heartfelt plea, Nikolai asks the public for help, blaming himself for gambling with his friend and losing him. Suddenly, Nikolai sees the robot body move, a sign that the head must be nearby. He rushes out to search. Moved by Nikolai's words, the boy takes Barago to find his friend. Unfortunately, they run into the thugs again. They grab the boy and are about to throw the robot into space. At this critical moment, Nikolai finally finds Barago, but he is thrown off the platform anyway. Just as Nikolai and the boy have given up hope, the robot dog comes flying back up, riding on Barago's private spaceship. Standing defiantly on the ship, he scares off the thugs. Nikolai and Barago are finally reunited. It turns out Scott had come looking for the real CEO in the spaceship. He wonders if this timely rescue will change Barasso's opinion of him. As a reward, Barago orders a large shipment of supplies to be sent to the boy's grandmother. The boy is stunned to learn that the robot is the richest man in the universe. Before leaving, he gives Barago a warm hug. They board the spaceship and head for Earth. During the journey, Scott learns everything that has happened to Barago. Barago angrily orders Scott to fetch him a whiskey, and Scott obediently complies. Nikolai is shocked by his harshness, but Barago says this is mild compared to his usual behavior. However, the tables suddenly turn. The ever-obedient Scott becomes assertive. He reminds Barago that he saved him and is now the acting CEO. He demands a 30% stake in the company and to be made a partner. Barago laughs, refusing outright. He says Scott should feel blessed just to have saved him, but Scott had anticipated this. He threatens to divert the ship not to Earth, but to a desolate garbage planet where Barago will be left to rust for the rest of his life. Barago tries to order the other robots on the ship, but they don't listen to him. With negotiations failed, Barago and Nikolai make a run for it, heading for an escape pod. As they enter, Scott calmly follows, knowing exactly where they are headed. They launch the pod and successfully escape. As Scott gazes at the stars, another Scott walks up beside him holding a drink and asks what happened. The assertive Scott was actually his AI wife in disguise. On Mars, the factory construction continues. Nikolai and Barago pilot the escape pod toward an unknown planet. After a safe landing, they find themselves in an extremely cold environment. Nikolai asks a local what planet they're on and learns it's Ceres, a planet between Mars and Jupiter that was abandoned 100 years ago. There is no train station. They'll have to find another way back to Earth. Barago is despondent, convinced he will rust to death here. Nikolai comforts him, pointing out that at least there are people and food. But there's more bad news. The robot body is almost out of power. Once the battery dies, his consciousness will vanish, which could mean death. Nikolai desperately searches for a battery, but finds none. With the robot's power at 2%, Barago wanders off alone. Barago goes to a church to confess his sins, vowing to change his ways if given another chance. There, he notices a device on the priest, a pacemaker. He asks if it's a lithium battery or a lithium-ion battery. The priest says it's lithium. To save himself, Barago tries to forcibly take the pacemaker. Nikolai rushes in at the last moment to stop him. Just as Barago is about to get the battery, the robot runs out of power and goes still. When he wakes up, he finds he's still alive. Nikolai had sought help from others, and they are now using power from a rocket to keep the robot running. But they can't take the rocket with them. While trying to remove a battery from it, Nikolai discovers the rocket is a fake. The local leader had deceived the residents into donating money to build it for planetary defense. Nikolai decides to expose the truth. He ties a rope from a horse-drawn cart to the rocket and pulls it down. The residents gather around and see the truth. The rocket is made of thin sheet metal. They demand their money back from the fraudulent leader. As a reward for revealing the truth, the residents give Nikolai and Barago plenty of food. Now, they plan to use the escape pod to travel to Earth. They successfully launch the small spacecraft into the sky. Breaking through the atmosphere is a difficult process. As the pod accelerates into space, it shakes violently, and the hull glows orange-red. Then a crack appears in the cockpit window. Fortunately, the pod manages to escape the planet's gravity and enter space. The damaged craft is barely functional. After a long journey, the escape pod arrives at a space colony similar to the Stanford Taurus where they grew up. But this isn't just one colony. There are hundreds of them, massive habitats filled with plants to produce oxygen and equipped with artificial gravity systems. They find Barago's mother, who recognizes her son immediately despite his robotic form. He feels ashamed in her presence, haunted by the memory of her harsh, disciplinarian upbringing, which created a deep psychological scar. Their relationship has always been antagonistic, and Barago, overwhelmed, storms out. They then visit their old workshop, where the walls are covered with their design blueprints and old photos. Overcome with emotion, Barago's memory briefly fails him. Nikolai helps him remember, which also brings back memories of his strict mother. He realizes that although she was severe, her methods pushed him towards success. Barago decides to forgive his mother. He returns to her home to say goodbye. Seeing she is asleep like a pig, he doesn't wake her from her snores. He notices her room is filled with his awards and photos, a silent testament to her pride in him. He quietly repairs her tent. When she wakes and sees this, she is overjoyed, but instead of thanking her son, she thanks Nikolai. When Nikolai asks why she treats her son this way, Barago insists that everything is fine. As her son prepares to leave, tears well up in her eyes. In the end, the mother runs after her son and embraces him tightly. Barago maintains his composure, telling his mother he will return home after he finishes his work. As their escape pod leaves the colony, Barago can no longer hold back his emotions and begins to cry. But instead of tears, only rust emerges. On Earth, Scott is angry with his wife for her unilateral actions, locking him in a freezer and tricking him into exiling his boss. He considers deactivating her but can't bring himself to do it. The final straw comes when she donates all his money to charity. Losing all control, Scott angrily divorces his holographic AI wife. Vera finds the dejected Scott and he tells her what his AI wife did. When she learns he is divorced, she kisses him passionately with her juicy tongue. Caught off guard, she apologizes and shyly leaves, but Scott realizes he has fallen for her sexy body. Nikolai and Barago finally reach Earth, where a massive square space station is orbited by countless unknown spacecraft queuing to enter the planet. Immigrants must obtain a passport. Nikolai finishes his paperwork and is told it will be an hour before they reach the surface. When he comes out, he finds Barago destroying his drone and the letters from his family. Nikolai finally realizes the truth. His family was never on Earth. Barago had lied to him. Enraged, Nikolai is about to kill him, but Barago scrambles up a pole to escape. He reveals he wasn't entirely heartless. He had written back to Nikolai's wife to let her know her husband was alive. Furious, Nikolai decides to go home and leave Barago to fend for himself. To stop him, Barago frames Nikolai by loudly asking where he put the contraband. The authorities are alerted and arrest both Nikolai and the robot. According to an order issued by Barago of Izhevsk Dynamics, uncertified robots are forbidden on Earth and will be confiscated, with their owners deported. This suits Nikolai perfectly. Barago has indirectly sealed his own fate. He tells the authorities the robot is uncertified and it is taken away to a scrap heap for discarded robots. He can only watch as Nikolai leaves. He finds himself surrounded by other non-compliant robots who stare at him menacingly. Nikolai boards a ship back to Mars, but feels a nagging concern for Barago. Meanwhile, Barago summons a manager and demands to be released, threatening to fire him and have him exiled. The manager ignores him and orders the scrap to be processed. Two enforcer bots approach to destroy Barago. At the last second, he rallies all the other robots to revolt, instantly becoming their leader. The two enforcer bots are overwhelmed, and the robots escape. But Barago is too small to get out. A robot he once exiled appears and helps him, but he gets stuck in the gate. Just as the two enforcer bots are about to grab him, Nikolai returns and rescues him, saying he's only doing it for his family. Nikolai sets a condition. They can go to Earth, but Barago must stop lying to him. Barago agrees to try to lie less in the future. During a company trip, Scott and Vera finally get together after overcoming many obstacles. Scott's AI ex-wife can only watch from the sidelines. The passenger bus carrying Barago and Nikolai is now in Earth's atmosphere. Nikolai writes to his wife, telling her he still needs her help to get Barago back into his body and that he will be home soon. They have arrived on Earth and are using a unique method to find Barago's body. Soon, he spots it. After Scott leaves, Barago sneaks back into his residence through a ventilation shaft and lets Nikolai in. They meet up again, and Barago leads them to a secret room. To switch bodies, they need the consciousness-swapping helmet. They locate it via security cameras and plan to use Barago's body to steal it. They head to Izhevsk Dynamics, but upon arrival, Barago's body is nowhere to be found. On this day, Scott is officially appointed CEO of the company and Vera is happy for him. Barago's office is now his. Nikolai and Barago split up. Nikolai blends in with the robot production department, while Barago commandeers a cleaning robot and dons its uniform. Nikolai discovers that their helmet is being studied by researchers. Barago tries to rendezvous with Nikolai but sees his own body playing around in the company headquarters. He decides to stop his body first. Meanwhile, Scott's AI ex-wife has not given up. She plans to use the helmet to switch consciousness with Vera, thereby gaining her body. She believes that this way, Scott will have the face he desires combined with the intelligent woman who pushes him forward. Just then, Vera comes looking for Scott and finds them. The AI ex-wife insults Vera with hostile words. A frustrated Scott sends Vera away, unable to accept such a relationship. Meanwhile, Nikolai manages to get the helmet and is trying to leave unnoticed, but he is discovered. Vera resigns in tears, telling Scott she doesn't want to be the other woman. Even though it's his ex causing the trouble, she can't accept it. Scott, furious, considers destroying the AI device. Disguised as a cleaning robot, Barago searches for his body. He overhears shareholders speaking ill of him and can't resist talking back, which exposes his true identity. The shareholders order the robot to be taken to the furnace and destroyed. Barago flees to the roof, where he finds his body precariously standing on the edge, trying to catch a balloon. If he falls, Barago will lose his body forever. On Mars, Nikolai's family is also in trouble. The factory construction is causing constant water and power outages. Nikolai's younger daughter confronts the chief architect, who ignores his superior's orders and decides to demolish their house. Back on Earth, the spectacle on the rooftop becomes breaking news. The world watches as a small robot attempts to save Barago. The researchers realize Nikolai is a thief and begin to pursue him. On the rooftop, Barago's body slips and falls. He manages to grab the robot's head and the robot's body catches him. He is now hanging by a thread. Nikolai escapes his pursuers and sees what's happening. He rushes to help. Just as Barago's grip fails, Nikolai grabs him and pulls him to safety, but now they are both being chased. Nikolai spots a spaceship and uses Barago's fingerprint to gain access. They escape from Earth, but the media reports that the farmer has taken Barago hostage. Scott's AI ex-wife, whom he couldn't bring himself to destroy, has used his likeness to rob a safe, framing him. She has deceitfully taken over Barago's company and is attempting to have both Nikolai and Barago killed. She threatens Scott, stop them from getting the consciousness swapping device, or she'll have him arrested. If he dares to destroy her AI device, the evidence of his crimes will be released automatically. Scott is forced to obey her. The news story of a farmer kidnapping the CEO of Ijevsk Dynamics becomes a global sensation, with reporters adding that the farmer's home on Mars doesn't even legally belong to him. Nikolai's ship speeds toward Mars, with police ships in hot pursuit, ordering him to stop. Surrounded, Barago remains calm and tells Nikolai to engage the hyperdrive. A journey that would normally take 100 days will now take only an hour and a half. The police ships are left stunned. On Mars, Nikolai's family is preparing to move, as they are about to lose their home. Just then, Nikolai's ship arrives. He and his family are finally reunited after their long and arduous separation. On Earth, Vera is feeling down when Scott suddenly appears at her door and kisses her fiercely. Without explanation, he tells her they are running away together, and she agrees without hesitation. On Mars, Nikolai prepares to perform the consciousness swap for Barago. To ensure it goes smoothly, they ask the architect for help. At the same time, the police arrive and surround Nikolai's house with robotic officers. The swapping device stops at a critical moment because a key capacitor is missing from the helmet. As the police prepare to storm the house, a ship arrives on Mars at high speed. It's Scott, and he orders the police to stand down, saying he needs to negotiate. He has brought the missing capacitor, which he had taken to prevent his ex-wife from getting the device. When Barago asks how much of the company he wants, Scott says he's not after money. Just then, Vera holds up the AI ring and presses it. Scott's AI ex-wife appears as a hologram. It turns out the AI had called Vera, deceiving her into believing that Scott was behind all the terrible things that had happened. Vera learned that Scott had used Barago to become CEO, robbed the safe, and attempted murder, not knowing it was all the AI's doing to frame him. The AI convinced Vera that if Barago returned to his body, Scott would go to prison. Deceived, Vera became the AI's pawn. The AI's goal is to use the helmet to gain a human body. She begins to manipulate everyone, urging them to stop the swap. She warns that once Barago is back in control, he will crush them all under his heel, including Scott, and will never return Nikolai's village. Barago quickly declares that while the construction cannot be canceled, he will do everything in his power to ensure Nikolai's family lives comfortably. The AI continues to sow discord, claiming everyone would be better off without Barago. Barago then pleads with Nikolai, saying that if they cancel the project, all their hard work will be for nothing, and promises they will find a solution that benefits everyone. Hearing this, Nikolai decides to trust his friend and orders the device to be activated. The AI looks at Vera, who is holding the ring. As dark clouds gather, Vera suddenly throws the AI ring at Barago. The swap begins, with Barago's body, the robot, and the AI all caught in the process. Afterwards, the robot lies on the ground, and Barago's body awakens. But it's not him. It turns out the AI has entered Barago's body, while Barago's consciousness remains in the robot. From now on, the AI will be in control. She quickly takes over as CEO of Izhevsk Dynamics. Nikolai and the robot are arrested by the police, and Scott becomes the AI's puppet. Vera is filled with regret. The robotic Barago is thrown away as scrap. There he runs into the train attendant he had a crush on. He is left alone in a waste disposal site, watching helplessly as the AI takes control of his company. The new AI CEO announces a new era focused on developing artificial intelligence to create a world under its control. But Nikolai and Barago have not given up. They know that one day they will take back everything they have lost. To that end, a projection left behind by Nikolai reveals a new plan. The first season ends here. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.